Hi guys, and welcome back. I'm here at Findon on the Moray coastline, and I've just had a week off from work and I've been wild camping in the Cairngorms. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I've been working on a new video this week. After my van tour video, I decided to put together a van build video. So using the pictures and videos that I took during the build, I've put this together with a narration, and I hope this gives you some idea of the different stages and how it was all put together, and also give you some ideas when you're doing your own van build. Okay, cheers. Before I started the build, I took the van to a professional who fitted me bonded left and right side windows, and also the rear windows were bonded too. I didn't want to attempt this myself. I didn't want to write my new van off before I'd even started, so in hindsight I think it was a good idea. So first of all, I decided to fit the Max Air Max fan, and the Peugeot Boxer has a flat part at the front of the roof that is ideal for cutting out and fitting in this position. So it's a case of measuring it accurately, putting the masking tape on there and cutting it out with a jigsaw, and making sure not to cut your head off in the process. So as you can see here, I made a wooden frame whose internal dimensions were exactly the same as the cutout, and I stuck this to the roof with Sikaflex and clamps. It's important not to make the wooden frame too deep, otherwise the head lining is not going to go over the top of it. It's easier to add some on later than take some off after you've found out that it's too deep. In this picture you'll notice the little cutout in the frame at the far side. This is going to be for the cable, the wiring for the fan when it's in position. In this picture you can see the frame for the fan is in position. It's been stuck down with mastic sealing strip, the screws supplied, and Sikaflex around the edges and over the top of the screws. And this is what it looks like once it's fully fitted from the outside and from the inside. Next I decided to fit the wiring for the Sterling 30 amp battery to battery charger. There are 4 cables in total. There is a live from the battery that goes direct into the battery to battery charger unit. There are 2 neutrals, 2 negatives from the battery. One goes into the unit and the other goes to the leisure battery. And there is also a live feed from the ignition, so that when the ignition is turned on, the unit recognises this. So I managed to get all the cables from the battery underneath the rubber matting that's in the van and down through the side step where the driver's door is. And to fit the ignition live feed, you do have to take a fair bit of the dash out at the bottom of the driver's side, and there is a wire in there that you connect to. For the 3 main wires that go from the vehicle battery to either the Sterling battery charger itself or to the leisure battery, I use 16mm cable. So next I decided to fit the Dodo mat, sound deadening mat, to the panels of the van. You just have to put this in certain places, not cover the whole panels. It used to rattle like an old tin can when I was driving it, so I thought this would be one way of sorting out that problem. And from the original video that I took, you can hear the difference that it makes. And this one, yeah, big difference. Yep, there you go. Before fitting the floor, I cleaned up all the holes that the screws had left from the ply lining, put some hammerite in there and covered them in Sikaflex from underneath and from the top. The lats were stuck down with this stuff and were 25mm thick to allow for the 25mm thick Celotex boarding. In this picture you can see the wiring for the battery to battery charger coming out through the 20mm corrugated ducting that I've run through where the little plastic triangles are in the bottom corner of the van. You can take those out and it leaves a gap that you can run these through. So I had to drill 3 holes in the A pillar to put the corrugated trunking through and feed the wires through to that position. Here you can see that all the lats and joints have been covered up by foil tape, and also the wheel arches have been covered in double bubble wrap and taped up too. Next I decided to drill out the hole for the electric hookup. Before I did this, I stuck a piece of timber on the inside to give the drill support when it was going through, and also for something for the screws to go into from the unit from the outside. This was put in position just using Sikaflex and the screws, and here it is fitted. The ply flooring was cut and screwed into position. The ceiling was next, and the Celotex was attached to the ceiling using stick pins. In hindsight, I wouldn't use these again, as I had real problems cutting off the excess metal, the excess part of the pin, and I would just use adhesive in the future. You can also see the wiring coming down for the ceiling lights. Here you can see I've screwed 2 pieces of wood to the horizontal beams that run along the side of the van and started to put the Celotex in position. I was creating a recess here so that this would allow me to have a longer bed. I get a full-size double bed in there. If I'd have run the timber direct up the sides, the sheeting, the ply, then I would have lost about 3 inches in length of the bed. So forming the Celotex like this gave me plenty of room, and it was like creating some kind of little alcove. I made the bed frames at this point by rebaiting 3x2 CLS timber and using bed slats. The front section, because it was 2 sections, was rectangular, and the back section had tapered ends so that it would fit in the back of the van. I started covering the ceiling in the double bubble wrap. This was attached using the high temperature adhesive sprayed to both surfaces. I had to leave part of the ceiling open, ready for the micro hockey in the shower room. I started running all the wiring into position so that I could start putting the wool insulation in place. I just used the holes and the gaps in the subframe channels in the side of the van. And these are the cables that will be running to the battery charger, to the consumer unit, to the Truma unit, the lights, the water pump, etc. And here you can also see the Truma ducting running over the top of the wheel arch that's going to go into the garage. For the insulation here, I used the Nauf earth wool 100mm, and again I stuck this on using high temperature adhesive on both surfaces. I had the small window in the bedroom area cut out professionally by Joe, and this allowed me to make a start on the side wall on the passenger side. I built a wooden frame around the inside of the window where it protruded through into the van, and this allowed me to screw the inside part of the window to it. I also formed a little alcove, same as the other side, with the insulation. Then I covered this in the double bubble foil to form the vapour barrier. I cut 2 holes in the roof for the cables, the positive and negative from the solar panel. I put 2 pieces of John Guest pipe in here to stop the cables chaffing on the metal cutout, and also had to cut a channel in the roof for the cables to run through. I finished off the vapour barrier at the rear end of the van, both passenger and driver's side, and this enabled me to start the carpeting. This section was done all in one piece, and I left the middle section free because I was going to put a different colour in here just for a little bit of contrast. In this picture here you can see one of the 2 vents that the Peugeot Boxer has in the back. This is so that when the side door is slammed the air has got somewhere to go, and though I didn't put the vapour barrier over these, I did put the carpet over the top, but the carpet does allow air through, and so it still functions as normal. Here you can see pieces of timber screwed to the side. These are going to be supporting the bed frame, and once they were in position they were carpeted over. Next it was time for the Altro flooring. This was cut to shape using a Stanley knife, and then it was stuck to the wooden floor using the high temperature adhesive, using it on both surfaces. I removed the plastic panel from the sliding side door and filled it with earth wool, and then I covered it with a vapour barrier before starting the templates. I used cardboard to make the templates and then traced these out onto the ply. I then stuck the carpet onto the ply, folding it round the outside edges and leaving the window part still intact. Once I'd screwed it in position, then I cut the carpet, leaving about an inch overlap. And if you've had the bonded glass windows like I did, there will be a rubber gasket round the metal cutout. You need to remove this and just fold the carpet behind it. I did the sliding side door in two halves, the top and bottom. It would have been really difficult to do it all in one piece. Here you can see one of the ply sections for one of the rear doors. I'm just cutting out the window part there, and these were done in exactly the same way as the sliding side door. Here I'm making one of the frames over the wheel arch. This is on the passenger side, and I've made it quite chunky because it's going to have to support the batteries, and also I've got the consumer unit in position there. In this picture you can see that the panelling has been put over the top of the wheel arch, the batteries in position, the Victron mains battery charger has been screwed to the front panel, the PV array solar isolator is in position, along with the Sterling battery to battery charger and also the solar charge controller. And you can also see the wires running across the floor from one side of the van to the other. Here you can see a double socket is connected to one of the circuit breakers in the consumer unit, and the mains battery charger is plugged into one of those. On the other side of the van we have the 12 volt isolator switch and also a 12-way fuse board. I created two kind of cavities, one on either side of the van, and the bed frame would sit on top of these, and it sort of gave me a way of hiding all the wiring. I didn't want loads of wiring on show, I wanted it to look really neat, and so this was one way of doing it. This is inside the one on the driver's side with a 12 volt isolator switch and the fuse board, and this is the one on the passenger side with the wires going off to the PV array isolator, the battery to battery charger, the battery, etc. Here we have the first fixed wiring over the driver's side window. The wiring here is for the water pump switch, the light switch, the water level gauges, the USB sockets, the bathroom light switch, the reading lights, and there's also a coaxial cable. I cut out the hole in the roof for the micro hecke where the shower was going to be. I used the same process as for the Max Air Max fan, and once that was in position, then I finished off the ceiling and put the vapour barrier up there as well. And this is what the roof looks like up to press with the solar panel in position 2. The Krieger inverter was fitted in the back. This is the driver's side window being prepared for carpeting, and there the carpet's going on. I only did the top half because underneath there was going to be the Truma heater. So now I've got the back board in position, the ply board that's going to form the back of the shower, and got that screwed up. It does overlap the window, but this didn't turn out to be a problem. I've also got a bit of support in there for the shower tray. So here's the shower tray, and I did have to cut it down quite a bit. I think I cut it on 3 sides just to get it square and to get it to the length that I wanted. And this is what it would look like in position with the toilet there. This is the head lining going up. I used a suede material, and to get it in the right position I drew a centre line down the centre of the material on the underside, and also a line down the centre of the ceiling, and I put it up with the high temperature spray adhesive. I was assisted by my daughter because it is a bit of a 2-man job, this one. And once it was up I could get the fascia on for the Max Air Max fan, and after I just cut out the holes for the lights, and there they are in position. And this is how it was looking up to now. I started doing a lot of the first fix pipe work here. There's copper pipe work there running up to the shower with a couple of isolation valves at the bottom, reducing down to 12mm. The water tanks had been fitted by this time, and so I could get the pipe from the fresh water tank up towards where the water pump's going to be. The first piece of furniture board had gone in here. This was going to form the inside of the shower on one side and the division between the bed and the shower. On the other side is a piece of 12mm plyboard that's going to form the other side of the shower. Here you can see that, looking in from the back of the van, that the contrasting red panels have been added, and also the inside to the small bedroom window that contains a fly screen and blackout blind. 2 holes were cut in the van floor for the shower waste outlets, and this is the toilet and shower tray in position. I fitted the next piece of furniture board into position. I made a cardboard template for it to go into the recess in the window. And what I'd done here was sort of created a little cavity of about 2 inches, and this allowed me to run all the cables inside there. I also cut 2 holes in the bottom for the isolation valves. I then fitted the switches and the wiring into the switches and the controls, etc., and also to the Truma temperature sensor, the cable of which for this I'd just ran in earlier. I measured and cut all the plastic panels for the inside of the shower room. I used 4 panels in total, 1 for each wall, and it was stuck on using a good quality adhesive. The actual thickness of the plastic was 2mm. Then it was time for the front door of the shower. This was quite a complicated process for me, but basically I cut a piece of furniture board the right size, and then I marked out the door and cut that out with a router. I marked out the access door for the toilet cassette, and then I put it in position and marked round the inside with a pen. And so then I cut out a piece of plastic that fitted inside this mark, and then I went round with a router to cut it flush with the cutouts for the doors. I then went out with a 45-degree angled router bit and just chamfered off the edge of the plastic. And here it is in position with the doors attached. This is a piece of furniture board that I cut for the right hand side that's going to go up against the bed and be alongside the fridge. I cut out the large opening there, which would give me access to all the wiring if needs be in the future. And here it is in position on the right hand side. I prepared the area behind where the fridge and the cooker was going, ready to be carpeted. The blue cable coming out there is a mains cable from the consumer unit, and the red cable, the red and black cable, is for a light that's going to be fitted underneath the unit there. Now it was time to fit the LPG refillable gas cylinder. I was quite confident about doing this myself, as I'm a registered gas engineer. So the first thing was to bolt the brackets to the underside of the van, and the cylinder just slots in here and bolts up. I opted for a refillable mount on the sill, the connection nozzle for refilling the cylinder, and also a solenoid valve, electronically controlled, that isolates the gas supply before it goes into the van. And once it was all installed, I gave it a couple of coats of black stone chip paint. So now the kitchen build started. I just did this one section at a time. There you can see the fridge is in place. So the worktop, I used a piece that I had left over from when I did the kitchen in the house, and there you can see the pull-out chopping board and shelf that is more detailed in the van tour video. I cut out for the sink and the cooker in situ, because there was a very small strip left at the back of the cooker which would have obviously snapped if I'd have tried to lift it about. And here you can see I've fitted the Thetford Argent sink and the Thetford triplex cooker. Also fitted is this freshwater faucet which draws water from this 10-litre container via a whale submersible pump. And here is the gas pipe going up to the cooker, and the hot and cold water pipes going along towards the sink. Once the kitchen had been completed with all the doors, the drawers and cupboards, which is more detailed in the van tour video, I started on the Truma combi boiler. So here you can see the black pipe is the flue or the outlet from the boiler, and all the pipe work is running across the front. And here you can see the hot and cold pipe that's going to go to the Bullfinch external shower via 2 isolation valves. It's also worth mentioning that dropout vents were fitted next to the combination boiler and also underneath the gas cooker. And here you can see the gas supply manifold. There's 2 outlets, one going to the Truma combi and one going to the cooker. In this picture you can see the Truma ducting vent going through into the shower room. Once the boiler was completed, I built this bench using furniture board and wooden bed slats, and I also made it extendable, and when the cushion's laid flat it could even sleep a small child. You'll notice the round hole at the bottom of the furniture board. This is for the Truma vent to allow the heated air out. For the control panel, I'd seen something in a coach built motorhome that I liked, and I wanted to create something similar of my own, so I set about making this. First of all, I made cardboard templates to the same shape as the top corner of the roof, and cut these out onto ply. I also cut a hole right through the centre of these pieces so that I could access the cables in the future if I needed to. So I made the front and the bottom out of ply, and the round section is a quarter section of a piece of 4-inch soil pipe that I assembled all together and then covered it in carpeting. It took me about 2 whole days to make this. I also use one of the lights that is already installed in a boxer van. When you open the side door, one of these lights comes on like a courtesy light, so I incorporated this into the bottom of this panel. The wire for this I'd run round the inside of the van earlier. Next I formed and made all the cupboards. This one is above the bench seat, above the Truma bench seat, and the next one, this is in the bedroom on the passenger side, and this one is above the cooker next to the control panel. And on the other side of the bed I made this one with a gap in the middle so you could sit up in bed. I also made that little shelf in the middle, which is great for putting your iPad on, the TV remote, glasses and other things. So that's the main build completed. There were quite a few more additions, like a single swivel seat, all the curtains, a tall cupboard, the TV. I fitted a Wi-Fi system. All these things you can see in the van tour video. I'll put a link to that in the description below. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you can take some ideas away from it when it comes to doing your own van build. And please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Many thanks. Bye.